Our speaker is just a dynamic gal. You know, who said sobriety is dull and boring? Let me tell you, far from dull and boring, let me bring on Liz B. from Queens, New York. Also, the committee has made a special plaque to give Liz, and I'd like to give that to her now. Good luck, honey.
Wonderful. I'd like to say good morning to each and every one. My name is Elizabeth Bailey. I'm called Liz in AA, and I stick to Liz. It sounds better than what I have been called. And I'm a definite and grateful alcoholic. Hi, everyone. I want to take this opportunity to thank Pat and the committee and all the volunteers for such a tremendous weekend. I also want to thank each one of you personally for the love that you have shown me this weekend. Ooh, it survives my life so beautiful. And honest to God, when I stand up here, let me tell you how I love each one of you. Each one of you. I love you so dearly. I am so proud and honored to be here today because when I came into AA, there were very few women. And to see you women come out of the closet, it is gorgeous. It is just gorgeous that I've been privileged to watch you grow. I was sitting out in the foyer telling them how I was privileged to go to Chicago about 2 years ago, I believe. I can't keep up with time. I go so much. But to look out and see 850 women sitting at a luncheon. Now, you know that's something to see, where I hadn't seen this many women in AA. But I welcome you. Kathleen, thank God for you today. I need people like you. We need people like you to keep me green because I have a built-in forgetter too, like anyone else. I want to thank Ellie for bringing me here Friday. And we had a beautiful, God bless you. And we had a beautiful meeting riding here. Wherever there's two or more under the sight of God, there is a meeting. You don't need a whole lot of people to have a meeting. So I never look for numbers at a meeting. As long as I'm there and you there, we got a meeting. And I'm one for a meeting. Again now, there was, I don't think I've left out anybody. Vivian and all the cast last night, weren't they gorgeous? They kept me awake. Yes. They went past my bedtime. And if you can keep me awake past my bedtime, honey, you've done something. You hear that, sponsor? Yeah, I done picked me a new sponsor. She's sitting over there. I was so excited. And to see my doll, Pam, I've watched Pam come in. I think Pam has over 6 years now. And she was just tremendous. And all of you you've blown my mind. And let me tell you something. You got to watch it when you get this high. It's dangerous. It is really dangerous to get this high like I have gotten this weekend. Because I've said it for years. Watch it when everything gets going good. Because a lot of us can't handle it. We blow it every time. So I went to my room last night with such an attitude of gratitude to keep me in recovery. See? And I have trained myself to stay in my place. Here comes my sponsee. 21 years I've been dealing with that thing. Look at that. And Evelyn was just tremendous, wasn't she? Woo! And you know what? Hang around, girls. You'll watch each other change. Ooh, I watched Evelyn change. And that's another nice thing about my life. God has privileged me to see so many of you come in. And He's privileged me to live these 40 years to see you change. Because I've had to change to stay here. Can't keep it. There was a minister preaching one time. And he says, if you drink alcohol, you're doomed to die. And a little old lady down front, she said, amen. said, now, if you smoke those cigarettes, you're doomed to die. And the little old lady, she said, amen. He said, now, if you chew tobacco, she said, look at that. He stopped preaching and gone to meddling. So I'm going to go to meddling. You know, the truth hurts us, but the truth will set us free. You know, we don't like the truth about ourselves, especially if we're doing wrong. And I remember in my drinking days, they used to say to me, you know, Liz, you're going to reap what you sow. And I used to want to bat them in their mouth because I wasn't sowing anything good, you know. And I didn't want to hear that. But in AA, I love it. You reap what you sow. Put something in so you can get something out, okay? And it pays off like an insurance policy in a bank account. You're only going to get back what you put in, okay? But I want to tell you, in AA, we're taught to tell what we used to be like, how we got to AA, and what AA has done for us. I know I've left a lot of you out here, like Dolores and Rita and all of you, but there's so many of you that have played such a tremendous part in my life. And I thank you for that. I'm privileged to thank you today for that. I started to drink when I was 12 years old. I'm the oldest of 5 children. I literally came into AA through the streets of New York. I didn't come in here through a bedroom. And I know what it is to be in the streets of New York and waking up where I didn't know where I was. But my mom made rice wine when I was 12 years old. And my mom happened to be an ordained minister. And watch out for those ministers' children. Lord have mercy. Okay? And I never wanted her God, and I always thank God that AA gave me my own personal God, which is so beautiful. And I love my mom. I didn't love her when I came to AA, though. But she made this rice wine when I was 12. And she left me to sieve this rice wine through some cheesecloth. And Marion was with me, her little girl, and she just took 2 drinks and she went home. But you see, I stood there and I sieved and sipped. And I sieved and I sipped. And I sieved and I sipped. And I put on a drunk at 12 that was a drunk. And my mother lectured all night long. And the next day I went out in the street snapping my fingers and telling my friends what a ball I had. And I don't even remember what happened. And that began to be the pattern of my life. If you didn't drink to get drunk and pass out, then I didn't say too much to you. I could never stand one of them people who stood up and sipped the drink. Jesus, they drove me crazy. And I bet you I got away from them, but fast, too. But my dad was a drunk. And I'm not allowed to call anybody an alcoholic but myself. Thank God for that. And I used to grieve about my dad's drinking. I'd see the policemen beat him with the billies, and people hit him with frying pans, and the blood would spatter. I've watched him come out of that Mother Cabrina hospital that we live right in front of up in Manhattan, dressed like a mummy. I'm ever grateful that I was in AA when he hung himself out here at Central Islip. I don't think I could have accepted his death if I had been actively drinking. I would have used his death to try to drink myself to death. But thank God I was in AA, and I had a lot of support. And, of course, I've never seen my mother take a drink in my entire life. And for many years, and Joyce and all of you know, I was wishing I could give that woman 2 lousy drinks and bring her to hell into my program. Because I always said she could use the whole 12 steps and the whole 12 traditions. My mom died 5 years ago, 3 days short of being 95. She had a beautiful life for herself, praise God. She worked like a dog, though. She was a hard worker. And at the age of 14, I was selling King Kong booze, and I want you to believe it was King Kong. The man made it in the tub next door, and I bought it by the gallon, and I was selling it for 40 cents a cream pitcher. And someone suggested that I take mayonnaise, olive oil, butter, cream, line myself up so I could drink plenty. Well, let me tell you, I took all that stuff, and the King Kong went all through the mayonnaise, the olive oil, the butter, the cream. So I stopped taking the King Kong, and I sold plenty of booze. I drank plenty of booze, and at certain hours I had to be padlocked into a side room for my protection. I'm laying out the window one night. I live one flight up, and I see this sharp dude. Oh, Lord, have mercy. He was just tipping on down the street. And I said, oh, my God. And then I saw this roll of money he had, and I said, oh, look at this. I got a live one. And I was always looking for a live one. And I'm going to tell you something. You see that Helen that got up here last night? She is my live one. I look for them kind of people in AA, them people that are going and giving and doing. I always look for live ones, even in AA. And I remember I went down and I latched onto this guy, and I found out it was a $5 bill around a lot of ones. But I latched onto him anyway. And I started going from uptown Manhattan down to the Lower East Side to all the joints down there to give them a play so they'd come up and give me a play. So at the age of 14, I'm drinking, I'm partying, I'm hanging out, and I run up to my mom and I said, would you sign for me to marry this man? He happens to be 10 years older than myself. And she says, oh, no, dear, over my dead body. That man will have you out in the street, and you'll live a terrible life with this man. And I found out something about myself at the age of 14. Don't you ever, but never, tell me what not to do. Don't do that. Because the very thing you tell me I can't do, there's something in my nature that makes me do it. And then I pay all the prices. And I thank God till today AA suggested everything to me. AA has never told me what to do. They suggest everything. And so I quit school at 14. I took sleep-in jobs. I was drunk every Thursday, girls, and every Sunday. And I used to sit up with these big flappy hats in the bars, and you couldn't tell me I wasn't saying something. Lord, with the Tom Collins and the frosty glasses. At the age of 17, I left New York with this very man. And I went to Baltimore, Maryland on the 3rd day of January, 1939. At 10 o'clock in the morning, I was standing in the courthouse crying my heart out. And the minister stopped my wedding ceremony. He says, my dear young lady, would you mind telling me just what you're crying about? I said, well, at last I got him. I'm going to be honest with every one of you. That was the sorriest day of Mr. Bailey's life when he said I do to Liz Ulrich. Mr. Bailey never stopped crying from January 3rd, 1939, till he went home with the Lord August the 12th, 1986. That was a sorry day for that man. Now, I came back to New York. I'm 17. I've got my marriage license, and this marriage license meant no more neighbors, no more mamas. Nobody was going to tell me how to live. Whew, I'm going to paint New York red. I'm 71 now and more. Can you picture what I was at 17? Oh, yeah. I'm going to tear them up, honey. I'm red. Woo, you talking about hot. Woo. Got back to New York, and this man gave up every liquor joint. He gave up gambling. He gave up hustling. He gave up going to parties, and he sat down. And I became a mental case at the age of 17. Because here I am rearing to go, and he's sitting. And he sat from January 3rd, 1939, till he went home with the Lord August the 12th, 1986. And I could not take that sitting down. Raring to go. And I started to drink my little drink all through the week. I began to look forward to weekend drunks. I began now to curse. Every word came out of my mouth was a curse word. I now began to fight everything and everybody. I now began to also leave my house from 1 day to 3 weeks at a time. I watched me going down. I suffered from guilt and remorse so bad. Because every time I woke up in a different place, or I started out like Evelyn was going to the A&P, I'd start out giving a party. I'd have to buy all the food. I would bring the food in, sit it on the floor, but now I got to go to the bar and have a drink to relax. And you know, once I picked up that first drink, and then I remember sitting next to the guy at the bar one night, and I said, what can I make besides cheese and crackers? I'm so sick of giving people cheese and crackers. He said, mash some liverwurst and put some hot sauce in it with mayonnaise and put it on slices of toast. All night long, that man beat me. When are you going home to make that? When are you going home to your party? After this one. You know, after this one. I never got to the party. Everybody would be at my house to the party, but I wouldn't be there. I'd be gone. And, of course, now, my neighbors, Mr. Bailey bought a house, and they all looked alike. And I got drunk in Manhattan. And I came out to Queens, and I don't know if you've ever sat on the subway or anywhere and tried to be a lady, and drunk as a fool, and throwing up and swallowing it back down, trying to sit up like a lady. And then I get out to Queens, and I look at these houses, and I'm standing in the middle of the road, and I don't know which is my house, and I don't want these neighbors to see what a drunk I am. And finally I spot a tree. And I said, maybe my house is next to this tree. And it was. So the next day I went over to my neighbor. I said, Mr. Rochford, please don't ever cut that damn tree down, because I wouldn't know how to get back in here at night, you know. And he didn't cut it down, bless his heart. But, of course, now, I'm always on my knees to Mr. Bailey. Please, Daddy, forgive me. I don't want to drink like this. I don't want to act like this. I had 3 beautiful children at the time, and I had a very bad marriage, though. I can never tell anybody my marriage was good, because all through my marriage, I was begging this man to love me. Please love me. And he always rejected me. He always pushed me out in the street. Go out in the street. Don't bother me. And I didn't want to be in the street. But as a young girl and on fire, like I told you, and desiring this love and this touch, I would go in the street. And I'd wake up at the damnedest places that I didn't want to be, and there again, the guilt and the more remorse and the crying and having to go get a drink to drown these feelings. And so I remember one of my neighbors pulled me up on the carpet, and she says to me, I'm very much ashamed to live next door to somebody like you. I bought this house to get away from people like you. She said, would you mind telling me just what's the matter with you? And I says, oh, Jim Lee, I suffer with my nerves. And Jim Lee suggested that I drink rum. Isn't that nice? I left her standing in my kitchen. I ran around to the Empire Liquor Store, and I bought a bottle of rum. Now, I lived in Jamaica, Long Island. I woke up in Briarcliff, New York with the bottle of rum. Till today, I don't know how I got to Briarcliff, New York. I've been asking you drunks to tell me. How did I get to Briarcliff, New York? A beautiful lady named Wig took me in, and I became a booze fighter at her home. And I would put a shot in the coffee in the morning, calling it Coffee Royal. I'd hide the lousy bottle in the drawer, and you know, when I put them in the drawer, I worry about it leaking. Jesus, don't be leaking. And then every time I'd find the bottle, I'd take a swig, and by the end of the day, I'm upping and pooping, and I'm so drunk when the lady comes home. And she sat me down by the fire one night, and she said, you know, Liz, you're a lovely person, but drinking is your problem. And she said, I put my husband out of here for his drinking. And she made me so full of guilt and remorse. Again, I wanted to die. Here I am up in some godforsaken country. I don't know where I'm at. I'm fighting the booze. I'm away from my children. And I called my neighbor one day. And she said, Liz, please come home. Judy was 2. She said, Judy won't eat. She's calling for you. And again, I came home on a cold March winter night. And usually when I come back off of those, I didn't get behind whippings ever. But Mr. Bailey would pack me up in shopping bags and brown bags and pitch me out the front door. And now I'm sleeping down in people's unfinished basements. And they're screaming down the basements at me, don't drink like that, and don't smoke down there. And I'd go back in the day and take care of my children and back to the basements until he would let me back in the house. One morning, I had been beaten to a pulp a couple of good times because I'm nasty now. And I remember this particular morning, my head was coming off my body. And I tried Anisons, I tried BCs, Alka-Seltzers. I don't know if you all remember Sin-Sins, but I used to suck them black Sin-Sins, and my tongue stayed black because I thought I was keeping the smell down, you know. And it was still coming out of my pores. And I tried putting a raw egg in the beer. I did everything to straighten my head out, and I couldn't get it straightened out. I reached over and grabbed my Bible off my night table, and I said, maybe I can find the answer in the Bible, how to straighten this rotten life of mine up. And as I did that, Mr. Bailey passed my room, and he said, put that Bible down, you hypocrite. Put it down. 20 minutes to an hour, you'll be so drunk, you'll be slapping one of the kids down. And he was right. Nobody got in the way of me getting a drink. And I'm going to inject this in here because I really mean it. Nobody, but nobody, gets in the way of me staying sober. It's the same difference. To me, it is. And I remember he says, or you'll be hopping a cab. And the cab drivers used to say, please take somebody else's cab. Took me 3 days to clean up my cab behind you. And I used to say, who the hell does he think he is? I paid 50 cents to get in that cab. Don't tell me who to take, you know. Or, like Mr. Bailey said, I'd be swinging a corner. Don't ask me what corner. Because I'd be drinking with the guys in back of the barber shop, and drinking with them on the corners, in the doorways, in the park. Wherever there was booze, I was there. And my sister had 3 bars in Manhattan. I'd go over there if I could get over there and sit on her bar stool all day long. I was all right as long as I sat down. When I got up to go to the ladies' room, all that booze went to my legs. And she'd say, get on the horse. That meant get the hell out of her place, but fast. And you should see me struggling up that 145th Street hill, trying to get to the subway to get home. And, of course, now, I don't want to hear Mr. Bailey's mouth. I have begged that man time and time again, do not argue with me when I'm drinking. Don't open your mouth. Shut up. I don't want to hear you. And you know why I don't want to hear him? Because I'm wrong as day. And I know I'm wrong, but I don't want to hear his mouth. And he kept his mouth going, and I literally ran and jumped up into the second floor window. This is the first time I thought of suicide. I never thought of no suicide, but this time I was so sick. And as I'm standing there directly in the window, and you girls forgive me now, as I went to throw my body down into the yard, there's a little old lady named Nana Backer standing down there, and she spots me standing in the window, and she starts to screaming, Mr. Bailey! Mr. Bailey! You better get her! She's gonna jump! He comes out this window, and his hands come out like this. He said, Nana, will you let that bitch jump? He says, I'll be rid of all my problems, all my troubles. Let that bitch jump! And I looked over at him, and I looked at him, and I said, who the hell does he think he is? I guarantee every one of you, I got down out of that window, I got back into that bed, and I pulled the sheet over me, and I slept that one off. I slept it off. I continued to drink. And every time I had a period of dryness, I didn't have to work. Mr. Bailey went back into the fur business, and he used to, every time I had a period of dryness, he'd make me another fur coat. Now, I only had period of dryness when it was coming out of my nose, out of my ears. I just couldn't hold anymore. And I had to lay low. And boy, the minute I got to feeling good, I'd go back to drinking. And he said, why you go back to drinking? You were doing so good. Well, you know, 3 weeks ago you said so-and-so to me. Or I could come up with excuses. Woo, they just rattled out of me. You know, I could come up with them. Because my neighbors pulled me up on the carpet. Why do you drink the way you do? Why do you act the way you do? You have a beautiful home, and it wasn't a home, it was a house. There was no love in there. Yes, I've had every material thing any woman would want on this earth. Even the neighbors used to get angry. There goes that bitch getting another fur coat. There goes that bitch. Look, she got a new refrigerator the other day. You know, there goes that bitch. And then I'd wear all these coats 7 days a week. I didn't wait for no Sunday to wear a fur coat. Because I'm sitting up in the bars with these coats and cut-up dresses and low-cut back dresses, and I'm flitting all around 7 days a week, not no Sunday, you know. And they couldn't understand me flitting them spurs all over. And one year, Mr. Bailey made me the most gorgeous leopard coat you ever laid your eyes on. He put 3 linings in it. He threw a party for the job for working on the coats. He threw this coat out on the bed. And I went in there and looked at that leopard coat, and I hated it. I gave it away. I wouldn't wear it. I said he made it so he could spot me anywhere. Sick. And I wished I had it in sobriety, I'll tell you that. Yeah. And I continued to drink. Mr. Bailey came to me one day, and he says, you know, Liz, you're the nicest wife when you're sober. He said, drunk, you're a Jekyll and a Hyde. Why don't you try this AA? When you desire a drink, run over to the phone and pick up the phone and call somebody to talk you out of the drink. I'm not going into the flowery words of what I said to Mr. Bailey, because cursing is my character defect. And I'm so sorry I can't stand up here and tell any one of you that I'm perfect in that department yet. But I have progress to do better. And people have listened to me like Peggy over the years. I know she hears the improvement, too, that I don't use that profanity. I don't really think it's necessary to use profanity to carry this beautiful message of AA. And, of course, you know what I told him to do with AA, Nikki, right? Okay. And he walked away from me because Dr. Graniger had said to him, I want you to go home and I want you to tell Mrs. Bailey she's either going to drink herself to death, she's going to drink herself into a mental institution, or she will drink herself into Alcoholics Anonymous. I want all of you to know that 40 years ago, there was nothing that you have today. There was no halfway homes, there was no detox units, there was 3 hospitals, towns, Knickerbocker and St. John's, and you had to have an awful lot of money to get into them. There was no insurance paying for no drunk 40 years ago. Nowhere. And people shunned drunks. You know that. They were running from me in the street. I'd see my neighbors cross over, you know. And don't invite her to no party, and don't tell her about nothing that's going on. I used to hear this, and I used to say, who the hell they think they are? I got my own party going, you know. And I did. I'd have my own party. I didn't need them. And, of course, now, Mr. Bailey never, but never mentioned AA again. And I thank God to this moment, because if he had to beat me with AA, I'd have never gotten here. I'd have never. And that's one nice thing about AA, too. We attract you. We don't promote you in here. Because how many of you have come up to me over the years and say, I want to be like you, Liz. Even about 6 months ago or more, I was coming out of Jersey City meeting, and this man run behind me as I'm getting in the car. Lady, lady, lady. I said, what's the matter with you? He said, I want what you got. I said, go back in them rooms. Go back in there and stay in them rooms if you want what I got. That's how I got it, and that's how I keep it, in these rooms. And, of course, now I drank another 8 to 10 months or so. And I watched me going down, broken fingers in 2 places. My arms are all sliced up, putting my hands through window plate glasses, drunk with anger. And, girls, please don't ever fry a frozen chicken drunk. I did. Knocked the grease over, burned up both of my legs. And I had to go to the hospital every other day to have these legs treated. Do you know these legs stayed like raw meat as long as I drank? I came in here, and what a healing I got. Ooh, you would never believe my legs were burnt. Complete healing. I got a healing yesterday also when Pat did the meditation. I couldn't hear Pat good, but I'll tell you, I sat there and turned myself over to my higher power. And I asked him to touch me from the top of my head yesterday, to go through every cell of my body. It was so beautiful sitting there, just hearing Pat's voice, just that soothing voice that she has. And do you know, I felt this knee that's supposed to have arthritis. Woo-hoo! Woo-hoo! I felt that thing, Pat, come out of me. It went into my hand that was on my knee. And I just took my hand with the pain hitting it, threw it out like that. I ain't had no, healing, honey. Yeah. Yes. And that's another little secret. Go off and be still to know that I'm the Lord. And go be still to ask for your healing. Go into the bathroom. I did a lot of praying in the bathroom because I had children running around me all the time. You know? And I did, and I got that, and I thank God, and I thank you, Pat, for yesterday. I testified that to my girlfriend yesterday right away because it was so beautiful. And again now, I kept drinking another 8 to 10 months. I'm going to tell you about my last drunk because I really want to tell you about the healing of AA. You're sitting here today. You're right. You're all a miracle. We are all miracles. And AA used to have a pin that said God, the dot, and 2 A's. And God is above AA whether you like it or not. And if I keep one hand in his and the other one in this program, I don't have a hand to pick up a drink. Some broad in the Bronx says she'd have sucked it through a straw, so, you know, what can I tell you? See, what can I tell you? See. But I was desperate to stop drinking when I got here. And, of course, now, in the 8 to 10 months, this was my last drink. I'm now drinking with heavy fist drinkers in the VFW Hall on 110th and Merrick Road. And Mrs. Lindbaum was coming to sell some insurance for the house. I got up in July, and I straightened up, and I left all my dusting even to last. And when I looked around, the phone rang. And I heard the guy's voice, and I just took the phone and banged it down. He called me back the second time. I said, listen, man, don't bug me. I said, I have to see a lady today, because, see, I know me now. I know that when I pick up a drink, I cannot tell not one of you in this room what's happening to me behind it. I can't tell you where I'm going to wake up. I can't tell you what's happening, period. And I know that. That's to thine own self be true. I wear it around my neck every day because I have to be true to me. And I remember I went to the store and I came back. He was on the phone for the third time. And he says to me, Liz, do me a favor. Hop a cab. I'll introduce you to the people, and I'll put you back in the cab and send you home to your company. Well, you know that didn't happen. I got in the cab because I didn't want him to drive me up a wall all day. And I got over there, the booze started lining up, the jukebox is going, and I'm singing, you always hurt the one you love, the one you don't want to hurt at all, give me another drink, smile if you're happy. I could sing them old Weeping Harry songs, you know. When I woke up, I was in one of my kids' twin beds. Don't ask me how I got in this twin bed now, but I was home. And at the foot of this bed stood my mom, and over here, Mr. Bailey. And my mom is screaming to the rooftops with her head going like this. Somebody done something to her. Somebody done something to her. And I look over at Mr. Bailey, and he got his head going. And he's saying, no, Mom, nobody's done anything to her. She happens to be a very sick girl. Ooh, he didn't call me bitch. You know my name was bitch. But he said I was a sick girl. Something went all over my entire body again. And I got up out of that bed, and I went to the basement of that house. I stayed in the basement for 2 days praying to die. I wanted out. And I looked at my oldest son, 12 years old, sitting there reading a book. And this is how I spoke to Richard. Richard, I can't live like this. This is not the way I want to live. I'm going to go up on the Long Island Railroad. I'm going to jump in front of a train, and I'm just going to end it all. I only live 3 blocks from the railroad. And I started to scream, and oh God, please help me. I have never screamed to God so as I did that night in the basement. Please help me. And God answered me just like I'm speaking to you. He said, try this AA that your father has told me about. I took the telephone book down and I called up AA. They didn't have anyone to send to me at that time because we went out to the drunks. We went 2 by 2. Never go to a drunk by yourself. Always take another person with you. And I don't care what I was doing. If I could be washing, ironing, cooking, cleaning, or whatever. Whenever we got a call, we stopped everything. We called another person, and we went out to that drunk. And so what happens is that I got myself together, and I went into Manhattan, 28th Street and Lexington Avenue. Intergroup was 1 flight up over a bar. I got in the vestibule, and I said, to hell with AA. Then I said, no, you've taken the buses and the subways, and come on, try to get up the stairs again. I got into the middle of the landing, and as I went to turn to go down in the bar, if you don't call this a higher power, tell me what it is. A lady looked down the stairs at me. She must have been watching me from the front window come into the building. Because she looked down the stairs at me and she says, are you having trouble? And I said, yes, ma'am. And I went running up the stairs to her, and she escorted me into the part of the office, the front part, and she sat me down, and she started to tell me about herself. Oh, my God, who talks about themselves like this? My mother says put it in a closet, in a drawer, under a rug. Don't you dare go out and tell anybody about yourself. Don't you talk about the black guys, the busted mouths, or the fights. And I always had to suppress that stuff. And, of course, now I said, Jesus. And she started telling me where she got this scar and that. I said, why don't she put this stuff in a garbage can and make sure she got a lid on it? You know, because I would never talk about myself before AA. I didn't have time anyway. But, again, she says to me, Liz, it's the first drink. I says, oh, please, come on, sweetie. I've been drinking for 19 years. She said, Liz, when you pick up 1 drink of any type of alcohol, down to even cough medicine, it is only a matter of time that a compulsion sets up into you that you have to go all the way. Oh, my God, was she right. I've seen myself take 2 drinks on a Monday, great. 2 lousy drinks on a Tuesday, you're looking for me. Wednesday, I'd go to Gert's department store and I'd buy a 5th. I drank the whole 5th. Nothing happened to me. I found the brand I can drink. You know, I ran back there Thursday and got another bottle. Friday, I'm knitting without needles. Have any of you knitted without the needles? Yeah. I'm walking up and down and I'm knitting, and I've got to go get that drink to get me back in focus. And she said we do it 1 5 minutes, 1 10 minutes, 1 hour, 1 day at a time. We do it with meetings, and we do it with a sponsor. There is no excuse for not one of you women having a sponsor, not having one. Out of 2.5 million of us, there's got to be somebody good for you out there, because it's a we program. We can do together what I could never do alone. I did not come these 40 years by myself. I came through a beautiful sponsor that I had for 28 years till she went home with the Lord. Today, I have 2 sponsors. One has 20 years and the other one has 10 years. These 2 women have quality sobriety. There's some people in here with quantity. I wouldn't give you 5 minutes for them. That's me. And I'm telling you. But I deal with the people who have quality sobriety. And I use my sponsors. I don't just say they're my sponsors. 2 days ago, I had to call one of them to come and get me because I got caught up in the HIV people. And, man, they were coming at me from every direction because, see, I'm an arrested cancer patient. And I went to Scranton 2 weeks ago to speak to the cancer people in Scranton. I took buses up there. But let me tell you, my head got so crazy 2 days ago that I had to tell her to come and talk to me and take me to 2 meetings in that one night. So I'm still working with me, okay, because I'm divinely human. I am not cured. Remember, the progression of alcoholism is still going on inside of me. And I said to the ladies outside today, I said, you know what? If I ever pick up a drink, I would never live behind it. Because the guilt and the remorse would kill me. It wouldn't be the drink. I know where the answer lies. In these rooms. 1 lousy hour and a half saves my life. And look at the hours that I messed up laying out there in the streets of New York, on the park benches, in the bars. Just messed my life up. And in here I came and found a life. And so again, she suggested that I go to South Jamaica or presentation to a meeting place. And I walked into my first AA meeting at South Jamaica, and I said, oh, I can't go there. My children go to that parish. And I said, so what? If the priest see you and it's in a church, it must be for good, and he must know that you need help. So I got my hair done. I don't know about you girls, but my hair used to stay drunk. My beautician would fix me so nice, and in 20 minutes to an hour, I'd be so drunk, my hair would get drunk right with me. And Mr. Bailey would give me money for clothes. I never looked too tough for the clothes, but I'd spend up the money drinking, you know. So this time I had my hair done nicely, and I bought a little 2-piece blue suit, and I go off to my first AA meeting. Now, I'm not making fun of the girls, but as I walked towards that coffee counter in South Jamaica, 2 girls behind the counter looked up at me and said, you don't look like an alcoholic. I said, what the hell did I get myself into? And let me get the hell out of here. And I started running out of the room, and thank God when I came to AA, they always kept 2 people at the door. Because, again, that was the last resort 40 years ago. No halfway homes. No detox units. No. And as I started out the door, the man slapped me over here on the shoulder. He said, what's the matter with you? Where are you going? I said, those girls said I don't look like an alcoholic. I don't know what an alcoholic looks like. I'm about to lose my mind, and this is just how I did it to him. I'm about to lose my mind, my home, my children, and everything through drinking. He said, have a seat, sweetie. You in the right place. And they put 2 tables together that night, and they sat around, and they shared their strength, their hope, and their experience. That happened to be July the 11th, 1952. I came in at the age of 31, but I was really 13 years old. Mentally, physically, and spiritually, I was beaten to a bottom that I just couldn't go any lower because I was really going to take my life. I just couldn't stand it anymore out there. It was just too hard. And as I started making meetings, and the very first night of AA, Kathleen, let me tell you, 3 carloads came home with me. From July the 11th till today, which is October the 19th, I have never been a day without an alcoholic in my life. Even through, that's right, not a day. I went on a cruise even on the water. I call a no booze cruise. And there was 25 of us on the water. So we had a meeting every day on the water. And so I've never been without. I'm ever grateful for that teaching. Because if I had to stay sober for my mother, I'd have been drunk. My mother did not like me telling you I was an alcoholic. She'd say, good morning, Reverend Bailey, how are you? And where are you speaking at next, Reverend Bailey? And it took her 29 and a half years to tell me to stay with them A's, whatever they are. See, and I don't plan to leave these A's. And of course, Mr. Bailey couldn't stand me sober. And he took the first 10 years, and I mean that man worked overtime to get me back into the streets of New York. He was so nasty. Every time I started out to a meeting, he cursed me. He called me Meshuggah Cup. If you're Jewish, that means there goes the crazy one. And he called me all kinds of names. But I would run out and jump into the cars, because I've never had a car in my whole sobriety. I don't know how to drive. And let me tell you something. Every night, a different white dude was picking me up. And you know, we got that instant love. And my neighbor said, "Oh, my God, from a drunk to this, what is she putting down? What is she doing?" But I thank God that I knew what I was doing. It was beautiful to know. And I used to run out and jump in the cars after an argument. And thank God I had some place to go beside a bar. Thank God that I live in the day and time of Alcoholics Anonymous. Woo, did I thank God many a night for that I had some place to go. And I would come into the meetings very sick. Now, if you're very sick, go to a meeting. Because Mr. Bailey always looked forward to me to come back drunk or upset. I'd come back flipping. Whoop, I got a joke to tell you, Daddy. Whoop. Don't bring that damn AA shit in here to me, you know. So I had to stop bringing AA stuff in there. And it was all right, because then I began to sit out in diners and restaurants all night till I'd get tired. And then I'd go talking to AA people, and then I'd go home. But, of course, the second 5 years, it dawned on me that you all are talking about a higher power. And that if I want to get well and keep this sobriety, I've got to let this higher power come into my life. And my spiritual awakening was, greater is He that is in me than he that is out there in the world. And thank God I started to put one hand in God's and the other one in the program I had. And I started to grow spiritually. I got hungry for the Word. Woo, I mean hungry for the Word. I started on a search in and out of prayer meetings, in and out of churches. And you got to watch the churches. They don't mean no harm. But they do not want you to tell them you're an alcoholic. They are going to tell you you're cured. You're saved. I know I'm saved, but I'm not cured. I am not cured, and we go into no controversial about our sickness with these people or anybody else, really. You want to get yourself upset? Try to prove to sister so-and-so and brother so-and-so that you are not cured. They don't buy it. You see? And I love AA because AA teaches you to live a balanced life. AA and home. You cannot stay home if you're not sober. I know I can't. AA and your job. Now, AA never allowed me to work. Every time I asked God for a job, He gave me another speaking engagement somewhere. So at 71, I don't ask Him to work no more, you know. No. But I work because I travel this entire United States and Canada. I leave here today. I'm going to Mount Carmel to speak tonight. But you see, I keep giving it away to keep it. I keep giving it away to keep the blessings coming. The blessings. Now, I've been through 8 operations. I've been to death's door 8 times in 22 years. If you don't want to call me a miracle, what is? I've gone up and had 3 operations in 6 weeks. And the doctor says, you've got cancer. He said, I'm only going to give you 6 months to live. And if you all have my cards, you'll see what's on my cards. I told the doctor, I live one day at a time. Ooh, if you can get into that one day at a time, because life is full of yesterdays and no tomorrows, it's today. Do you know I'm over 25 years an arrested cancer patient? And the motor's running fine? Yes. I'm still hopping trains and planes and buses and subways. I'm still making time from day one to right now. Don't tell me it don't work. It does work. Of course, I have an older son who hasn't spoken to me but 3 times in 40 years. He let me know he hated my living guts, that he would never forgive me or forget me. And I came into this beautiful fellowship that taught me how to love Liz. And that's how I come to love you women. I couldn't love you till I could love myself. And once I found out about myself in this fellowship, when I tell you I love you, baby, and hug and kiss you, I want to squeeze you to pieces because I do love you. Oh, God, I love you. And this is such an honor and privilege to even stand up here and tell you that. And, you know, one day my son is going to come home, and I'm going to welcome him in. I'm not going to put diamonds on his finger, Nicky, because I know where he is. He's not that much prodigal to me, you know, but I know where he is. But I'll throw him a party. My second son was an addict and an alcoholic. And, of course, I used to say to Dennis, the right road may be hard, but you'll be the winner. The easy road, the price is heavy. 22 years ago, June 25th at 2 in the morning, Dennis was shot and killed in Flatbush. I thank God again. I had 18 years of sobriety. He loved my sobriety. And I don't cry for Dennis. I don't believe, this is for me now, I don't believe in crying for the dead because we disturb their beautiful spirit. And I let go and let God. And every June 10th is Dennis's birthday. He made 50 this year. And I just say, happy birthday, Dennis, and that's it. No sitting around moaning and groaning because I can't bring him back. But I can live this beautiful life that Dennis knew that I was living. And, of course, I have a beautiful daughter. I stopped drinking when she was 5 years old, and I thank God till today that she doesn't remember me as an active drunk. Because I want to tell you, if she remembered me, she'd whip me to death with it. She would crucify me today. There's something about me she doesn't like. And I don't know what it is, and I keep telling her, one day, I hope you'll learn to like me, Judy. You know, but it's okay. Judy's had 5 mental breakdowns. I'm going to say this, and some of you women might not like me saying it, but Mr. Bailey and my life damaged all 4 of my children. And that's why I ask the husbands today to please treat your pregnant wife with decency so that you can bring nice children into the world. Because my life with Mr. Bailey, I didn't realize it damaged all 4 of my children, something terrible. You see, my oldest son doesn't speak to me. You see, my next son is dead. You see, my 3rd child with mental breakdown, 5 of them she's had. I've been so privileged that I've been sober to raise her children for her, okay? And when I was raising a newborn baby in my 60s, I said I didn't understand how Sarah had a baby at 90 because I was having a hard time in my 60s. You know, I really was. I was having a rough time. But I did it. I raised him. Robert is 11 going on 12. And Rabia just made 20. Isn't that nice? And in finishing college this year. Yes. And I praise God every day that I could do that. And, of course, now I have an AA baby. She's 36 years old. I was 3 years sober. And I'll tell you, I named her after AA even, Adrian Anita. I said, because without AA, she'd have never been here. Now, we know that, don't we? Not the way I was in the streets. And, of course, now, Adrian, about 16 years ago, turned to be a Muslim. And she wears the shroud, and she covers her beautiful face. She lives in Boston. And she comes down here twice a year to Jackson Heights. And I had a black hat on and a black coat. And we went into the A&P there on Roosevelt Avenue. And the cashier says, oh, it's a stick-up, it's a stick-up. I got hysterical laughing, and I went to the floor of the A&P. And coming back on the subway, and she speaks so proper since she lives in Boston, she says, Mother, are you accepting me as a Muslim? I said, you join Hoodism, Buddhism. I really don't care whose ism, as long as it helps you be a better person. And this is something I must inject here. The greatest slogan that is in AA is live and let live. I am through raising children. I am not raising no 36-year-old woman or a 52-year-old man. I learned in Al-Anon, which I love, is MYOB, mind my own business. And I'm a full-time job on Liz, keeping Liz mentally, physically, and spiritually well every day, not 1 out of 7. Every day I work on me to make me a better person. Okay? I have 12 grandchildren. I see them by appointment only. And I want you to believe it. I'm not raising no more grandchildren. No. Not unless God give them to me, because I'm not going out and get it. See, I love my life. You should see me. I put on my little Reeboks and grab my suitcase, and I'm gone. Miss Bailey, where are you going this week? I'll see you later, sugar. Got to make time. You know, and I make time. See, I'm not sitting no babysitting. And, of course, now I have one great-grandchild that I never dreamt that I would have. He's 4. And I heard, you hear what I'm saying? That I'm going to have another one this month. Yeah, but that's okay. God has been good. Now, I admit and I accept and I surrender to the fact that I am an alcoholic. And I used to run around AA telling you that I had a choice to pick up a drink. But I didn't want to take what goes with it. And I went to Pennsylvania twice a year for 16 years. And this man got me up in front of 200 people at the Holiday Inn. And he said to me, Liz Bailey, I'm damn sick of you coming here twice a year telling us that you have a choice to drink. And he opened up the book as Bill sees it. And he read what Bill Wilson said. If you admit, you accept, and you surrender to the fact that you are an alcoholic, you have no choice to drink. And I stopped telling you I had a choice. Not if I want to live this beautiful life. I don't have a choice to drink. And of course now I went and had a heart attack. And I laid in the Guardia Hospital for 5 weeks. I was cut from ear to ear. 2 glands was taken out of my throat. I couldn't speak. I said, okay, Lord, you through with me speaking? Is he through with me? Brought me back stronger. I stand up here and say, cool it, because I've seen you come up half the chairs. I've seen it, because the power is within us. Your 11th step tells you that. The power is within you. And so, again, it took me 20 years in AA to get the key to my life. Please, God, don't let it take you 20 years. And the key to my life is to take my scars and turn them into stars, because I'm loaded with scars, drunk and sober, cut to pieces in sobriety, breast operations, gallbladder operations, hysterectomy, all kinds of appendix, all kinds of operations I've had. Cut throat, right? Breasts, everything. And I turn them into stars, because I couldn't stand these cuts half the time in sobriety. And let me tell you what the key is: to seek God first, and His kingdom, and His righteousness, for all things to be added unto you. He was so sick of Liz shoving him in between people, places, and things, that he brought me to the point where I have to seek Him first. And I get up now and I say, good morning, God, instead of, oh, God, it's another morning. I used to hate to see another day come. Liz Bailey has had 1 sick bout in 20 years. I went to an Al-Anon anniversary, and I'm not blaming it on Al-Anon, but I ate some chocolate mousse. And if you've got stones, don't eat no mousse. Those stones will almost kill you. And I laid in LaGuardia Hospital 3 years ago for 10 days. I turned off phones, no TV. I wouldn't have you. I even stopped visitors from visiting me, because there was over 90 visitors in a short time. They kept running from downstairs, upstairs, asking me, who are you? Who are you? I said, my name is over the bed. Who are you? I said, my name is at the foot of the bed. I didn't realize that you all bugged at LaGuardia Hospital on the phone, since I didn't turn one on. I knew if I turned the phone on, I would never get well. And I left everything shut off. And, they took me into Brooklyn, into the city. Where's that Beth Israel? In the city. They put me to sleep. They went down my throat with a light. Every one of those stones turned to gravel and sand. And they were big as eggs, because they showed them to me on the monitor. Do you know in AA, when they tell you this too shall pass, they pass. They pass. And I praise my God every day, because that was the only sick time in 20 years, by me putting God first. Now think about that when you leave here. Think about it. And it's so beautiful. Again, I came to believe. Took me 5 years here to believe. And that meant that I better change my thinking and actions if I wanted to stay sober. I made that decision one day to turn my life and will over to the care of my God. And I said it to someone yesterday. If you're in pain of any kind or any situation in your life, really, if you really give it to God, then you don't suffer the pain. You don't suffer the pain. Try it. Keep practicing it, like it says. It might not work the first time, but keep practicing it, and it works. I've taken my inventory many, many times, and I thank God that the longer I'm sober, the more comes to the surface, and He's not going to give you and I anything that we can't handle. That I have to know. And again, today I can admit to God, to myself and another human being, the exact natures of my wrongs. See? The exact natures. Because if I don't do that, I keep myself in bondage. And I have something nice to say to all of you. I'm free. Free at last. Woo! Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. Yes, God. Free. Yeah. And somebody said to me, a young man in Flushing, he says, Liz, Martin Luther King went to the top of the mountain. He said, but I'd be damned if you ain't been through the mountain. So I've been through the mountain. Yes, I have. I've gone through a many trial and tribulations. I could never stand up here within 45 minutes and tell you about 40 years of living here. I mean in AA, not around it. There's a great difference in being in AA and around it. A great difference. Get yourself a sponsor. Go to the meeting you don't want to go to. That's the one you get the zinger every time. Give yourself to someone. Pass this on. I will beg you, at 71 years old and 40 years here, keep passing it on. I plan to pass it on till God takes my last breath, because I have seen miracles on top of miracles in this fellowship. You're in one of the grandest fellowships in the world. And I thank God that 416 groups have adopted themselves from Alcoholics Anonymous for the fact that we're so powerful here. You or no one of you are going to tell me you're leaving this seminar without getting something. Not a one of you dare tell me that. Even what you saw here on this stage last night, that meeting alone was a message. Where's my girlfriend? She jumped up and cried. She thought the thing was real. We were sitting over here laughing. Yeah, she was crying. And when I saw her yesterday, I spoke to her. And she said, oh, she knows me. She knows me. I said, no, I read your name on your tag. Read your name on the tag. Now, I want to get off of here because I want to leave this last 15 minutes for you. I like to respect other people. And that's something nice that we learn to do in sobriety. When you respect yourself and love yourself, then you can respect others. I've been privileged to make amends to Liz. I love Liz today so that I can love you. And I've made amends to my loved ones. There's only one person I haven't made amends to in 40 years, and that's my bartender. I sent his children to college, sitting on the bar stool. I bought this man the finest Cadillacs every year, sitting on the bar stool. He changed them every year. And I want to take somebody to Vermont and show you the house I bought him. It would injure me to give him the $2, okay? And so again, each and every day, as I did this morning, I dropped to my knees. God is first. He's first. Before I deal with you or anybody, He's first. That's the only way I get the strength. And the power is within me to carry it out. Because I have that conscious contact with Him. And you've got it too. Never forget, it's no secret what God can do. What He does for others, He can do for you. With His arms wide open, He'll carry you through. And after I've had a spiritual awakening as a result of these 12 steps, I'm still trying to carry a message. I don't tell you I carry a message. I try to carry a message. And I practice these principles in all my affairs. It's just not one day out of 7. It's every day. Give us this day. Give us this day. If I, Liz Bailey, because you see, I have one primary purpose in my life. I don't ask for material things anymore. I don't ask for anything too tough anymore. I don't require what I thought I used to have. I do see things differently today. And when I go out on the road, God has protected me. One of the members gave me a little angel because she said I'm always up in the air and in the plane. I do hop the planes. I like the planes better. 2 weeks ago, I took 2 buses to Watertown, New York, a 22-hour ride. Don't ever do that. My body ached for 2 days from the buses bouncing and changing buses. That I'll stop doing. But last week, I took a 4-hour up to Scranton. And then last week, really, I was in Montreal. So if you call me and I'm not there, be patient that you know I'm out trying to help somebody. Because that's my primary purpose, is to stay sober. If I, Liz Bailey, can touch one of you women this weekend, oh, Lord, just touch one of you, then you have shown me that I have not lived in vain. Thank you so much.
A cheer for Liz.